When I look back now, I know that I've experienced things, on certain jobs that, that my white counterparts on the job had no idea that I experienced, or certain things were said to me and they have no idea.
I mean, I was in a tech where it was every single person that was sat in the stores, and they called up on the God mic for the lead actress, and the lights, of course, went down all of a sudden, as they want to do, up and down as they're testing things out. And then God mic came off, and then someone turned to the next person and went, tell her to smile because we won't see her otherwise. And I just thought, in that moment, that was a completely unsafe space for me, because everyone that was within earshot of that was white.
In a show I worked on, we were told one thing would happen. I questioned it because it didn't happen, and I was seen as a nuisance. One of the people in management said, "What does he know? This is his first job. How is he questioning me? I've been here for 20 years," or something along those lines. And that kind of thing is really hard to hear when I just feel like I'm another human being asking a question. It's not a personal attack on you. I hope I'm not saying it in an aggressive manner. I'm just asking a question, and I happen to be passionate. I feel that's how I am. And then there are other people who are definitely being aggressive, who are patted on the shoulder and said, "All right, mate, it's going to be okay." And I'm not giving that same grace.
When we did the SITS probe, I remember I was sat next to Mark Malin. I hope he doesn't mind me using his name. But I literally, when I walked in, I just presumed the place was going to be populated with black musicians. And when I walked in and saw that it was all white, I actually was like, sat down next to him and was like, where are the black musicians? And he didn't stay, he just went. And then when I asked our MD, where are the black musicians? I was told that black musicians, a lot of the time, they don't want regular work, they like gigging. So they come in and they cover and everything. But then when I spoke to black musicians who've worked on other Western shows, they went, it's bullshit.
There's like a marching section at the end of Act 1 of Les Mis, and I remember the musical stager coming up to me and saying, I was at stage door during the interval. She came up to me and said, "Oh, we're going to have to look at the way you march because you're looking a bit like Sammy Davis Jr. at the moment." And I remember at the time thinking, oh God, this is when I used to smoke as well, because I was out there having a cigarette. I remember having to walk away from the stage door thinking, I have no idea where that came from, and what that meant, and why it was okay for her to say that. And interesting enough, she never actually did look at that march and, marched the same way for the rest of that contract. I would want people to know that those are the kind of things that I have experienced. And because people often go, I think there's an assumption, especially in theatre, when people go, or the white actors you share a stage with or a dressing room always go, there's, I'm not racist, there's no racist people. And it's like, it's not, it's one of those things where you kind of say to people, it's racist is much bigger than someone saying, "Oh, I don't like you because you're black."
People think it's just a joke, and it's soft, it's not even racism, they just think it's a joke. But when every person in that space that is enjoying that joke is not part of the demographic that you are targeting, it's not a joke. It's an unsafe space. I mean, people need to know that there is a really simple way of making spaces safe.
I think a seat at the table, the first thing you have to ask is, what is that table and who owns that table? If that table is owned by a majority group, then you're asking for permission to be accepted at that table rather than being accepted in your own right. So you're knocking on a door and being asked to be you're asking to be let in. So that is slightly problematic, because we should exist in our own right and we shouldn't really have to ask permission to be part of a group that should be really inclusive anyway. But for the purposes of trying to change the industries that we're in, we do need to be represented at the highest echelons. We do need to have seats at those tables to be able to really meaningfully affect change. So it is a slightly double-edged sword. But I don't think that our perspective as people of colour should be limited to, well, we can only have a seat at that table. We can create our own tables and still be a part of that too, but I don't think that it should be something that we see as the only way, as the only route.
I don't begrudge people who say that they're going to play directors at their own game and play the black caricature, because we all need to survive and we all need to eat, right? Racism is already a fabric of our environment, so we cannot ignore the fact that we need to play the game in order to do what we need to do to be able to survive. The issue is where we don't know that we're doing it anymore, and it just becomes something that is so like normal. It becomes something that also reflects on our day-to-day life. Writers, white directors and white writers don't write black characters for black people. They write black characters for white people. So then what happens is that we're stepping out on stages and we're pretending to be white people, pretending to be black people. And then, because of the environment of these spaces, we're then replicating the white idea of black people in those white spaces, which then reflects on our day-to-day and our home life, because we're spending all day pretending to be black people instead of being the black people that we are. And then that relates to us with other black people, because then we're measuring blackness by whiteness, by white people's idea of blackness. We're going, that's ghetto. Or we're saying, oh, well, that's not black enough. Or we're going, oh, I need to sing this way because that's gonna get me the job. And if that other person isn't singing that way, then they're not gonna get the job because they're not black enough. So in actual fact, we're putting ourselves on our own selling block. Ooh, that's scary, isn't it?
The more that we are given opportunities to do that and tell our stories in safe spaces that then can hopefully become great TV shows or great films or great theatre shows, means that, yeah, it's exciting when a black person wins a BAFTA or wins an Olivier, but it's so much more than that. And I would rather like us not win, but the category be 5 black, Asian, Arab people and then 1 white person. And I'm not saying like it's flipping on its head the other way, but because that would show me that we've come so far that we're all in contention, we're all in like the running for it. But still, time and time again, like look at the Olivier Awards this year, which are the theatre awards. They're so white. It's so boring to me, to be honest. It's not even beyond frustrating because I don't even get riled up about it. I'm so used to that. But unless we're telling a black experience that they want us to tell, whether that's Dreamgirls or The Colour Purple and Motown, which are fantastic shows, but they were written decades ago, and we're still constantly just regurgitating those same narratives rather than exploring what a black experience looks like nowadays, or what does it look like to be black and middle class, or black and upper class, or black royalty, or black poverty. But we're constantly the shucking, jiving, singing, having to belt and bleed to win an award. So actually, I don't celebrate those awards sometimes because they are, in and of themselves, hugely problematic. Because we know, once again, feeding in, we have to work 10 times as hard. Whether that's Jennifer Hudson, who is incredible, giving that amazing performance in Dreamgirls to win that Oscar. But her contemporary, her white contemporary, can cry, or can give a humorous performance and win the same accolade.
I'm not taking anything away from people who are being successful, and I think we should enjoy the successes that we have. But let's not just be like, well, I got my BAFTA, I got my series or whatever, and then think that that's it. Like, it's not it. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of greatness, but it's not greatness yet. It's not greatness until we all we can all look at ourselves and see ourselves reflected, and see ourselves reflected on screen, on stage, in ways that are real. It's not success until we are gatekeepers. We're not just the people in the front. There are people in the back behind the cameras doing things and making moves. It's not successful until the disparity between black people dying in police custody when compared to white and Asian people is that gap is shortened. It's not with success until we earn the same as our white counterparts. So yes, there are beautiful moments that are happening, but until we address all of that and what that is as a big messy whole, and how all those things feed into other things, it's just bits. It's just Obama being president, then leaving, and then having another president come in and undo all that. Like, it's a moment. Until it becomes a movement, it's a moment.